Hi, everyone. My name is Mara Shuster-Lefkowitz, and this is,
Faith Imafidon.
and we are the playwrights of the Theater Zone. If you'd like to know more about our play and what we have to say about the arts, please take a watch of this video here.
When I first fell in love with theater, I would have to say I was in the seventh grade. It started with doing public declamation in English classes. And I remember my English teacher like telling us about it, like how we'd have to like go find like a piece of poetry or some prose that we loved and declaim it for the class. And I remember like how nervous a lot of us were, but when I heard it, I was so excited because I was a really big book nerd. I loved reading books. I loved reading poetry. And I think that quest to find like the piece just really threw me into it. So I was reading poems, I was reading plays, and I remember finding a poem, The Seafarer's Wife, that I had declaimed for the class, and just feeling so connected to it, connected to my classmates, being able to express myself with these words that I already found so beautiful already, but being able to put my own spin on it. So I think that was kind of like the beginning of my journey in terms of like performance and theater, but I think it really took off probably as a freshman, as a ninth grader, and doing like my first play in school. That was adaptation. Um, and I think having the chance to work on a piece with my peers, with other people, having it be a collaborative experience was so exciting. I was a homebody, so like if I wasn't doing school, like I couldn't leave the house. So I think it was also an excuse to get out of the house and to be with people. And there's something so intense that happens when you're working on a show where you're exploring your thoughts and your memories, and you're around people who are just as excited, just as passionate as you. So I think it was just a really incredible bonding experience, and it just made me realize how important it was for me to not only create art, but to create art with other people. And I think that's when I really fell in love with it.
I started similar to you, how you were a homebody. I was bouncing off the walls. So my parents were like, get her out of the house. So at around age 6, they put me in theater, and mostly because my brother was doing it. He's 5 years older, and he was my idol. And I was like, yes, I do everything that he does. So followed suit, and I fell in love. Fell head over heels. So first play was at Greece, and I was Kaniki, which was, oh man, it was the role of a lifetime. I'll have to show you some footage, Faith. It's pretty hilarious.
I want to see it.
Yeah, the leather jacket was really on point. But regardless, no, I fell head over heels. I was part of the new Conservatory Theater Center at in San Francisco, and it was just a community that wanted to foster creativity for people of all ages and people of all creeds, religion, race, sexuality, and it was wildly influential and liberal in sort of formulating my younger years. And they helped me decide that they didn't really help me decide. I'm one of those rare bunch that found it early and realized this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, kind of deal. And they just fostered that. And I don't know. I always say that there is my first love is being on stage. There is nothing quite like being able to perform. Right? You know this, Faith. I mean, just to be able to influence somebody's emotions or your own with your coworkers, whatnot. But no, so yeah, theater is everything. When did I realize that writing was more than just a little necessity? It was a need. I okay, so in fifth grade, all of the top kids in their class, which I was absolutely not a top kid in my class for grades, got to join a creative writing program, which I always thought I was like everyone should be able to join. But regardless, they all got to join, but they made a mistake and they said that I could join. And the first prompt was, I remember this was, it's misty outside, you're in a forest, and a wolf is sitting in front of you. Continue the story. And uh, my imagination or my mindset works in a very interesting way, which is that I have these crazy invasive thoughts sort of at all times, not like dark per se, but that, something wild will be happening. Maybe a pack of wolves will show up right behind me, or, zombies or whatever it may be. So I realized, wow, this is a great way to foster this imagination that is constantly here at all moments. So I started doing it for fun. After a week, they realized I wasn't part of this class, so they kicked me out, which I thought was pretty funny. But I continued writing little stories for my parents' birthdays. If I didn't have money to buy them something, I would write them like, a chapter of some fantasy novel I said I was going to complete. Then I realized, and as I got older, I have to say it wasn't on par with acting. Acting was always my first love, and writing to me was really like, oh, I'm good at it, and I have a lot of ideas, so I'll always jot them down. But it wasn't until I, got to college that I realized, create your own stories, write what you know. Share them with other people, and how sort of invigorating that felt. So, I don't know if that answered the question, but really that's sort of, they are more on par now, because I've realized that, what I have to say is important, and share what I can when I can.
When did I realize like writing was important to me? I think it is. I think I've always gone back and forth between performing and writing. I feel like they came, like, if it wasn't one, it was the other, because I know, like, growing up, I loved reading. I was an avid TV watcher, like, obsessed. And I remember, like, I'd watch, like, Punky Brewster was like one of my favorite shows, like, growing up, and I would write like my own like little storylines for her, and I would write like everywhere. It wasn't just like in notebooks or pieces of paper. It'd be like on the back of a cereal box and cardboard boxes, like anything I could get my hands on, I would just write on it, like whatever came to mind. So I think then that's when I realized it was like in the compulsive area in terms of like having to write down things that were coming to me. Um, yeah, and I think like um, throughout middle school and high school, I've always been a very emotional reader. So I remember like writing reports and how I would kind of like throw too much into it. Like it was definitely not academic or professional as you probably should have written a paper. And I think just like the emotion that would kind of pour out of me as I would write or talk about things is kind of what got me on the path. So I did writing programs through high school. In college, I took more playwriting and screenwriting classes. But I think like Mara, my brain always went back to acting or performing. I was always interested in like different types of the arts. So I would always bounce back and forth between them. But I think as I've gotten older and, living in LA and auditioning, and you realize that the things that you might get called to do, you might not be passionate about. They might not be the best written things. And I know particularly like sitting in acting classes, and as we would warm up and do exercises, hearing people's stories and hearing the things that would come out of their own life made me realize there's so much happening as us, as people, from our own lives that are so interesting. And we, I should be telling these stories. So I think that's what has made me realize the importance of digging in and just allowing whatever to come out to come out. I think there's been a lot of judgment as well, because I know for me, it's like I don't want to say it until it's just right, but you just have to get it out because writing is editing, it's rewriting. So it's the pressures that we have for it to be perfect kind of need to melt away so that the story can come forth. But I think being an emotional reader and even just like looking at what's going on right now in our world, um, thinking about like empathy and people who are different from you, I think that's why it's so important to write, because that's where we're going to learn, it's where we're going to grow, it's where we're going to be more compassionate for others if we can hear the stories and understand those stories. So I would say it's important for the theater community to embrace more stories because we are more than just a bunch of old white people. You know, there are so many more people who are sitting at the table whose voices deserve to be heard. And I think that when we ignore those stories, we limit our capacity to care, we limit our capacity to love and understand. And these stories from BIPOC artists, from BIPOC people, um, I feel like when you hear them, you start to see how much you have in common, because the more the more specific the stories are, the more universal it becomes, strangely. Um, and our world is changing. We have new voices, new people who are hungry and who are passionate and who have things to say. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we say only these people are worthy of being heard or these stories are worthy of being told. The world is just, there's so much going on, there's so much diversity, and I feel that we as people benefit when everyone gets a chance to be at the table.
Yep. Yeah, you got it all. I'll just add that we also have a duty as creatives to be showing our younger audiences that there's a place for them. We don't see it enough. We're seeing it more, but we don't see it enough, and we need to continue fostering, yeah, arts and creativity for the next generation. How do I start a writing process? How do I get it out on the page? It's a great question. I mentioned that my mind in particular, I am ADD. And so thoughts are constantly crossing paths or hitting each other, bouncing all over the place. So what I try to do for me, and I assume most writers, but once I come up with an idea, I try to outline what it is that I'm trying to say. Whether that's story or a character or a thought, I just try and break it up, figure it out in that way. I mean, it's difficult though, because I think each project differs. I think each idea differs. I might go at a totally different approach for each concept. But for instance, I have an idea about I really, for a while, I was really obsessed with black holes. And I was like, whoa, the creation of a black hole. What does that mean? Does somebody create it? Was it already there? How does space relate to this black hole? How do we relate to the black hole? Like, and try and work it as if it's a workable object and move through it and with it. I don't know if there's one way to do that, but I would say particularly I'm a big proponent of jumping right in and just trying anything that works, and then having a really good set of collaborators like Faith or like people that edit, not always Faith, um, that can help me work and rework concepts. And I have a lot of story in my brain, and a lot of time it's so far fetched that narrowing the field to make sure that characters and dialogue, are as stable as the entirety of the story I've created, is something that like I continue to work on, and I probably will for the rest of my life. But that's why you got to surround yourself with good folk that are ready to jump on in and tell you when that doesn't make sense, or that's great, let's keep it going.
In terms of my process for writing, I think it really does depend on the project. Like Mara, sometimes an idea will come to me. It might be something that someone has said that is just kind of lingering, or I might have a dream and or I'll have a feeling about something and I just want to take it to paper. Um, a lot of my writing starts as poetry, so I kind of just let it pour out however it wants to come out, and then from there I'll start to come back to it again. So I might like think about it. I might, walk away from it and come back to it and edit it, add more, as it begins to take shape about like what it is I want to do about it. Um, but I think it's differed from I've had instances where like I'll have an idea and then I'm writing for like 2 weeks nonstop and I've created something. Or like now I've had an idea for years that has just kind of been like plaguing me, and it's been like fitful, like starting and stopping, starting and stopping. So it's for me, it's just about being open to however the piece wants to appear. And then like as it's coming out, just um, I try to work on it as quickly as I can, because when it does come, I like to work on it when I'm the most excited about it, when I have like the most like energy and just bubbling about it. Because I found that like when I allow it to sit too long, or if I get too precious with it, it starts to die for me. So I think moving very quickly when it comes has been so important for
Yeah,
me.
you got to write it down right then and there, or get yourself to pen and paper, because otherwise, fleeting moment.
Exactly. Yeah, I've started like recording things.
Yeah.
Like I have so many notebooks, little notebooks all over my house, because I just scribble it down, and then maybe I'll come back to it. But you need to do something with it when it comes. Theater of Note, I first heard about it. I heard about it through a friend of mine who I'd went to grad school with, Jenny Sue, I love her. And she was a member. And I remember I came to see her in a production of Hot Cat, which was an adaptation of Hot on a Cat, wait, which was an adaptation of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Tennessee Williams. And I was just so struck by it. It was everything that I loved. It was intimate theater. It was a black box. It was movement. It was kind of weird and off the wall, but just so engaging. And I remember seeing that production and just being like, whoa, like this is amazing. So that was like my first inkling of Note. And I just wanted to stick around. I wanted to find a way to somehow be involved, like in productions moving forward, because I was already a theater junkie, and I think I was upset that I hadn't known about this theater. So um, that was my first introduction, and I think like a year later, or a year and a half later, I was invited to audition for their show For the Love of, and that was my first production with them. And I love the fact that it was an ensemble company. Like everyone in the company, it was democratically run. You have complete ownership of what you do. Like you are calling the shots. And I just thought it was a really exciting way to work. I thought it was a way that you can get your voice and your thoughts and your opinions like out, and you can see it go into effect. So um yeah, I love Theater of Note. I've been with them since 2018, and they're just phenomenal people and phenomenal artists.
Yeah, no, piggybacking off of that, I was craving theater. I'd been in LA since end of 2015, and it was missing in my heart and my soul, and I hadn't found a community that I felt necessarily drawn to. And then my good friend Liesl Hansen, who's a member, was like, "Oh, you would love theater. If not, come on in, come see a show." And then I got quickly afterwards. I auditioned in 2018 and got in. And I remember at my sort of pre-audition, they asked me, they're like, "What are you looking for in a company?" And my answer was obviously not what I'm going to say because I can't remember, but it was something along the lines of, I miss a community of uh, artists and creatives that give you the freedom to be who you want to be, and put that foot forward in order to make that happen, whether you want to write or do production or set design or take a gander at writing for the first time or painting a set. I mean, they really were just, they wanted to foster your creativity. And I was like, cool, all right, I'm game, let's do it. And it's been really phenomenal ever since. Not to mention, everyone is really talented. And I don't just say that. It's a crock pot of a good amount of, overwhelming talent at times. So, no, I just feel blessed to be a part of it. I think this was the reason that we wrote this story. Where did it come from? We had a hard task at hand, which is that when we heard about Together LA Festival, one of our board members, sort of the main group, Faith is one of them, but one of the people that we elect to sort of run Theater of Note, said, why don't we do a bit of an exquisite corpse project deal where everybody writes something and then other people write things following that, but you only get a bit of it. And then we were like, oh, that's going to be a little bit hard. Why don't instead we have as many members as who would like to participate send in an original line or two or three, and then we'll write something based on those lines. So we were given dozens of lines. I think it was upwards of 60 sentences. And the goal was to try and incorporate them into a scene. But we had lines from all walks of life. We had, this portion of my diatribe is brought to you by the Teletubbies. And then we had a line about, mental illness isn't equated to, a casserole dish disease. And, arms shot up and fists. And so they were of all walks of life. So we really set ourselves up for
a challenge.
A challenge, yes, to say the least. And Faith and I really just, I think the idea came to me early on that like we should do something vignette-y so that we can have individual scenes with a through line. And Faith and I were talking about the new Twilight Zone and Jordan Peele, what he's done, and Monkey Paw Productions. And we knew it was going to be hard and that this was a Zoom play, not just, a theatrical piece on stage. So we wrote this maliciously intended play about a villainous host who is following an actress stuck cycling through the life of her characters. And we see 3 different scenes of her, which Faith played phenomenally. I'm really excited for everyone to see. And we just wrote and edited, and it was totally collaborative and really difficult. And I'm very proud of what we wrote. I feel like it could have gone on and on, but we came up with something good.
I really want to tip my hat off to Mara because she really helped steer that ship, and our director Sam Squeri, she was really fundamental in helping us streamline it some more and like offer like questions to help us, take it further. And even the company, like by them like reading the play and like hearing it out loud, we got to continue to tinker with it. But it was a lot of fun to do. It was like the writing challenge that you dream about, like all of the things. It was all of the things, but it was a lot of fun to do. And the company was just so supportive and helping us make it happen.
And they gave us the freedom. I mean, I think that's so important. That again, they really were. They believed in us so wholeheartedly. They said, Faith, Mara, Sam, do what you want, figure it out. We'll take a read sometime early on, and then just keep it on. So feel really thankful for that.
In terms of like writing it and then performing it, like when we were on our feet and reading it and doing the rehearsals, like some new ideas in terms of direction, like things that I had never thought about infusing in it as I was writing it, came out in the performance of it. So that was exciting. And even just hearing like the other actors read the piece, like took it in a very different direction. And you're like, oh wow, I never thought about it that way. So it opened up a lot of creative doors that may have not necessarily been there when we were like sitting down and writing it together. And yeah, and even like getting to perform like the scenes that Mara wrote or I wrote, like it was very satisfying to do. And also there was like a moment where like we were rehearsing or we were reading out loud and Mara was like, hey, you know what, I heard this, but I want to change this. So I'm going to pare down this line because I just feel like you get a better flow. So it was nice that even as we were acting it, the writer was still like in our brains, like lurking in the back to work hand in hand with it.
Sure. Which can be really dangerous, but we we did it really well, I think. Yeah, no, it was a really awesome experience. And and then you're doing what you have, this green screen behind you and nobody's actually present, and there's time delays and there's all this technical work that you're having to play around. So brings in an element of film work. So it was really using the best of our ability as thespians and playwrights and screenwriters, and figuring out how that works, and playing to nobody for a while and trying to make sure that Faith had a really hard job because she had to play to multiple characters, but as entirely as one being. It was so there's a lot in this story that we wrote, but no, I think it was really nice getting to be playwrights and actors. What do we want the audience to get out of this play? I think there's a lot one can get out of this, but I would say some conversations that Faith and Sam and I, our producing team early on, was really about the situation that we are currently in, quarantine, COVID, and about the severity of being alone or being stuck in one situation and how individuals work through it. Not to mention that while all this is going on, there've been really integral protests going on around our country about Black Lives Matter and police brutality. And how do we take our current situation and wrap it into this sci-fi theatrical piece? It was difficult. I think there's a lot one can take from it, but I would say one that comes to mind for me is the nuanced idea that when you're stuck in a rut, it's hard to find like a little bit of like a life raft. And our main character that Faith plays, she keeps coming to a bit of a realization and being told she's wrong or that it's not there. And you can have your own perspective on what that means and how one gets through it. But I think that inevitably the feeling is you need to be able to trust your gut. So there's a lot there, but I think that all of those ideas together, really, we're leaving it open-ended for viewers to have their own feelings on some of these bigger questions.
I think that was really beautifully said. What I want people to take away from this play is that we're all going through our own iterations of feeling trapped and powerless, and I think it's important, despite those feelings, to continue to fight in any way that you can. It might be big, it might be small, but I think I would like people to take away that it's important to still fight in whatever manner that you can, because it does mean something. Well, I love that this is probably one of the first times that the intimate theater community has really been able to come together. You know, this pandemic has been really terrible for a lot of theaters, and one of the bright lights is the communication, the community that we've been able to build. And I know that so many theaters have been like craving this for so long, so it's just so exciting to have all of these artists and artistic directors like sharing information, working together, still finding ways to create joy for so many people, not only in Los Angeles, but around the country. Because it's virtual, we have an opportunity to reach people that otherwise wouldn't be able to come into our theaters. So I'm just really excited about more people learning about the vibrant theater that is here in Los Angeles, and that so many people work so tirelessly to create.
Yeah, truly. I mean, that's it at its core, is that we are a community that don't get the opportunity to work with each other as much as we would like, and we've been given this gift, and we want anybody who wants to see it. That's the digital age is at our fingertips here. It's really awesome.
They must watch because it's damn good.
Tell it.
No, Theater of Note, we have a delicious, wonderful company. We are 38 years old. We have one of the largest casts in the festival. So I just think it's a lot of great artists coming together. It's a great idea. Some wonderful visuals in our show. I think there's a great message in there. And I just think it's fun. It's out there. It's different. And definitely a great Friday night in.
Totally. And if you're not, we don't usually get the sci-fi Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, Monkey Paw Productions type of theater. So let this sort of be your sci-fi thrilling theater experience, if anything. Yeah. Why is Theater of Note so important? This is a community that has worked for decades to amplify voices that don't have the reach to necessarily get a platform to, show their work to. And Theater of Note we are a democratic run theater company that wants the world to know that we're here. We're not going anywhere. This pandemic has been as difficult on us as it has been on countless theater companies. We're here to stay. We're fighters, and we're going to do anything in our power to make sure that we continue to let voices who don't have the chance to necessarily be heard. So I just want to, this company is filled with so much light. You know, I feel so blessed to be part of it, and I know Faith does too. I don't know. You might be able to have a more eloquent sort of sentiment than I do, Faith. But no, I feel like this is integral. We need our arts. So we need to make sure that our arts are getting the funds and the appreciation that they should be given right now.
Definitely. I would say I so agree with Mara in terms of why theater of note is important and why we need the arts. Like, theater of note has always been a scrappy theater. It's always been theater by any means necessary. If we don't have the funding, if we don't have the people, if we don't have the time, we're gonna get it done, and we get it done well with quality. We've never been afraid to take risk or to push the boundaries a little bit. And I think it speaks to the art that we make. And I think definitely in times of, uncertainty and hardship, like, art is where we come back to. It's where we go to fill our well. So I think it's so important to recognize artists because, they are the soul of our society, of our communities. It's how we reach each other. It's how we communicate. Um, we're always going to need to express ourselves, and that goes doubly so when times are hard. So the arts are so vital, and we're wishing the best for all the theaters, and we just want them to keep doing what they do because these voices are needed. Hi, I'm Faith Imafidon, and
And Mara Shuster-Lefkowitz.
we are the playwrights of the Theater Zone. We are so excited about the play, and we hope that if you enjoyed our talk, that you will join us on Friday, October 16th at 7 p.m. for the airing of the Theater Zone with the other fabulous intimate theaters that evening.